We all know the carols, just, part of the background noise of every December. On the 10th day of Christmas.
My true love gave to me 10 lords a-leaping.
Exactly. And it just sounds whimsical, right? You picture these medieval noblemen breaking into some kind of silly dance. Maybe it's just filler for the song.
But what if those 10 lords aren't just dancing noblemen? What if that single image, that very dynamic image, represents something absolutely foundational to moral authority, to self-governance?
And even the structure of cosmic law.
Precisely.
That's what our deep dive is about today. We're looking at a fascinating analysis that pulls this incredible esoteric meaning from that one lyric, and it connects it directly to the heart of moral systems, specifically the framework of Freemasonry.
Right. So we're using the 10 lords a-leaping as an allegory for active law, for judgment, and for the kind of spiritual governance that any group, or even any single person, needs to really thrive.
And the sources here, they really hammer home this idea that this is not a static image. It's all about the motion.
The mission for this deep dive, then, is to really unpack how that image of lords leaping just completely challenges our idea of static, seated, unmoving rule.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the core argument is so powerful. True moral authority, real leadership, it requires active virtue. It has to be responsive.
You can't just sit on a throne and expect things to work themselves out.
So when we start to define the image, let's start with the Lord. Historically, that's your highest secular authority, right? A landowner, a judge, someone with a title.
But the analysis we're exploring just redefines that concept of nobility completely.
It shifts the criteria.
It really does. In esoteric thought, and especially in Masonic thought, true nobility, being a lord in that higher sense, it's not measured by your birthright or some title you inherited.
It's measured by your moral uprightness,
your wisdom, and your active, willing service to other people. The governance here is ethical, it's spiritual, not temporal at all.
And so crucially, these moral governors, they are leaping. They are not standing still. So what does that one action, the leap, tell us? What does it say about effective authority?
Well, it signals immediacy. It signals purpose. The leap implies the law is in motion. It's governance that's not just sitting in an archive somewhere.
It's responsive.
Engaged, vigilant. I mean, think about the opposite. A static, sluggish system that just sits back and lets injustice happen until it's way too late. That's just failed rule.
It's about leadership as stewardship, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sources make that so clear. It's never about dominance.
Never. The true Masonic Lord is the one who sees a need for justice, for mercy, for truth, and just leaps into action. That's fulfilling the duty.
And this is perfectly mirrored in the officers who govern a lodge.
Oh, absolutely. They're the practical manifestation of these principles in action.
You see the worshipful master, the symbolic head, governing with wisdom. You have the wardens who are there assisting, supporting those directives.
And then you have the deacons, the active messengers. I mean, their job isn't passive at all. They are constantly moving, carrying messages, attending to the candidate, making sure the lodge is secure.
Every single one of those roles is like a lordship in miniature.
Yes. An entrusted office that demands that vigilant action. When they do their duties properly, they are symbolically performing that leap that moral leadership requires.
So the image isn't just about 10 individuals. It's about the whole structure of moral governance needing to be dynamic.
And what's fascinating here is that the foundation for this governance, it really relies on the number 10 itself. If you trace the number 10 back through, different philosophical and religious traditions, it's always linked to divine law, to completeness.
The most immediate one for most people is obviously the 10 Commandments. That's the foundational ethical code, right? Presented as this immutable, universal truth.
10 represents the full scope of moral duty, but the esoteric connections, they go so much deeper.
You mean like the Kabbalistic tree of life?
Exactly. 10 is the number of the Sephirot, the 10 emanations through which the divine manifests everything, from pure consciousness all the way down to our material world.
And the Sephirot are arranged in 3 pillars, aren't they? Mercy, severity, and harmony in the middle.
And you immediately see that echo in the craft's own core structure.
Wisdom, strength, and beauty.
It shows how these principles of governance, these lords, they aren't just independent ideas. They exist in this complex system of checks and balances.
A divine blueprint for how to operate in a balanced way.
Right. And then you have the Pythagorean connection. 10 is the sum of the first 4 numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4.
Which forms the tetractys, that sacred triangular symbol.
And Pythagoras believed that symbol, the tetractys, it contained all the secrets of the universe. It represented cosmic order, wholeness. It was the ultimate statement of perfection.
And that idea of completion is really important here, isn't it?
It's the whole point. The 10 lords represent the completed principles of the lodge. When you have all 10 fully realized, you have a system that's ready for action.
A system where morality and divine will can come together.
The lords are those perfect, completed principles. And now they're animated. They're in motion. Hence, leaping.
Okay, so let's transition from that high-level theory to the practical side of this. Applying law within an actual organization, a lodge, a company, whatever.
Every lodge has its rules. The bylaws, the Grand Lodge Constitution, the ancient landmarks, those are the static documents.
But the whole crux of this allegory, as the sources keep saying, is the leap. Laws by themselves are just inert. They're just words on a page.
They're only as effective as the virtue of the people who have to interpret and enforce them. Masonic law isn't meant to be some rigid self-serving code. It's a framework for upholding higher principles.
Brotherly love, relief, and truth.
Exactly.
So the law has to leap. It needs to be responsive, agile, principled. And you can see the consequences of failure so clearly. What happens when a lodge master who's supposed to embody this just becomes sluggish, indifferent?
The whole system just grinds to a halt. A master who just sits on the law, who knows it's there, but avoids the difficult issues, the internal divisions or an ethical problem.
He fails. Utterly.
And the structure falls into disrepair. The 10 lords are supposed to be moving against that apathy.
It really demands courage. The officer's job isn't just to keep a quiet room. It's to enact justice, to leap when injustice threatens.
To rise when sloth or division starts to creep in. It's about animating the principles, making them live in actual decisions, even the unpopular ones.
Not just reciting them in a ceremony.
Which brings to mind the connection with the cardinal virtues. We focus so much on temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice.
Yeah, and justice is the keystone. It's symbolically seated in the East where the master rules.
Right.
But isn't it incredibly hard to maintain prudence when you see a clear injustice? The natural human urge is just to react emotionally, maybe with anger. How does the Lord make sure they leap with wisdom, not just passion?
Well, that is the essential challenge of leadership, isn't it? The 10 lords are images of living justice. That means they are authority tempered by all those other qualities. Their leap has to be governed by prudence.
The ability to see the right action, even when things are uncertain.
Exactly. It can't be governed by personal bias or passion. That balance is why you need all 10, and it's why they have to move together in harmony.
Let's look at the speculative principles that define this. The sources suggest we can distill this down into 10 pillars of governance. This really confirms that governance is a practice, not just a position you hold.
These are the dynamic qualities that must be in motion constantly. They have to move, respond, evolve.
I think laying this out gives you, the listener, a pretty clear checklist for ethical leadership. So let's start with the pillars that define purpose. First, wisdom, governing with insight and foresight.
Second, strength, leading with moral courage, unwavering.
And third, beauty, inspiring the whole community through your example, through order.
And then we get into how you execute the law, where that tension between fairness and compassion has to be managed.
So fourth is justice, upholding fairness and accountability. Justice has to be blind, but it also has to act.
Right. And fifth is mercy, tempering that discipline with compassion. I mean, justice without mercy is just cruelty.
And mercy without justice is chaos. The Lord has to leap with both.
That dynamic is absolutely critical.
Following that, you have the personal characteristics of the ruler. So, sixth, integrity, leading with consistency, with honor, with honesty.
Seventh, humility, serving the community without arrogance or looking for personal glory.
And finally, the pillars of effort and direction.
Eighth, diligence, performing your duties with real energy and care. No sloth.
Ninth, harmony, preserving that unity, managing conflict.
And 10th, vision, guiding the whole group toward the light, always focusing on that higher purpose.
It's so clear that this entire system is designed as a shared dance. The balance of power between the master, the wardens, the members, it all prevents tyranny.
It mirrors that rhythmic, unified movement of the 10 distinct lords. Each one is essential, and they're all moving together. It's a beautiful illustration.
It means governance isn't a monologue from a throne.
No, it's a complicated, continuous choreography. If one lord falls down, if strength is used without wisdom, or justice is applied without mercy, the whole system just gets disrupted.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting. The 10 lords don't just govern the external space. the lodge. They also symbolize the inner process of judgment that every single one of us has to undertake.
That is the critical application. The 10 lords represent that spiritual faculty inside you that helps you discern between the square and the oblique.
Between upright action and a flawed impulse. This is inner governance.
Exactly.
So just as the worshipful master governs the external lodge, the master mason has to govern the self, ruling over his own passions, prejudices, habits.
That's where the real work becomes personal.
Your internal governance, your thoughts, your desires, your actions, they have to constantly leap toward truth.
Guided by the compasses to keep them in due bounds, and measured by the plane to make sure they're upright and true.
And the source material reminds us that this is the ultimate measure. Titles don't matter. Not in the world, not in the lodge. What matters is if you are ruling yourself well.
Are you a noble in your character or just in name only?
The 10 lords a-leaping can be seen as 10 parts of your own psyche, the faculties of your soul being called into righteous, immediate action whenever your conscience awakens.
They're your internal judgment panel, and they demand consistent self-mastery.
It's a lifelong call to be animated. You can't just possess principles like wisdom and justice. You have to actively deploy them every single day.
Making sure your character isn't just a decoration, but a dynamic force that's directing your life.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The 10th day of Christmas, it turns out, presents this really profound ethical question. Are you governing well?
Not just your job or your family, but your own life and character.
Are your principles in motion, ready to leap? Or are they static, just asleep in the archives of your mind?
The allegory demands activity. It demands virtue and responsiveness from anyone who wants to embody moral law.
Justice is not a dusty scroll you read once a year. It is a dynamic leap toward fairness. Leadership is service in action.
And this raises an important question for you to carry forward. Are you merely a steward of abstract virtues, or are you a lord of light, a man or woman of principle who leaps toward virtue, who rules with fairness, and who dances dynamically upon the pillars of wisdom, strength, and beauty?